Town of East Greenbush Planning Board meeting. For Adam, unmute Joe Slater, please. And please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you.
Flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America,
Republic,
which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty,
justice.
justice for all.
Okay, we are presently a 6-member board. We have all members are present. And we do have 2 public hearings to start, but I do want to start and just thank Jim Moore. He recently resigned from the board. He just didn't really have the time, but Jim was a mentor of mine for over 30 years. I think he was extremely valuable to the board, brought a lot to the planning board, and he'll be sorely missed. But very much appreciate all the time and effort he's put into East Greenbush planning over the, since 2007, 2008 until present. So just wanted to start with that and give Jim thanks. So next, we'll get started with public hearings. First, we have Town Center PDD Phase 1 Major Site Plan 580 Columbia Turnpike. Before that, I have to read the notice regarding virtual meetings. Pursuant to Executive Order number 202.1 issued by Governor Cuomo on March 12, 2020, and advisories issued by federal, state, and local officials related to COVID-19 virus, the Planning Board will convene its March 10, 2021 board meeting remotely as follows. The board meeting will commence at 7 p.m. and will be conducted through the use of Zoom, a web-based video conferencing tool with local desktop client and smartphone applications that will allow the Planning Board members and those with business before the board to participate electronically and remotely by audio and with or without a video connection. In order that members of the public can view the proceedings, the meeting will be live streamed on the town's YouTube channel. To view the stream, go to the town's YouTube channel, the link is available on the town's website. Members of the public with questions or comments can support.
Hold on, I can't get it when with other sounds.
Yeah, please put your phone on mute if you're not, or.
And actually there's like feedback because other people aren't muted. So maybe if we could just do the speaker not be muted. And
Yeah.
one more thing, Matt, can you slow down, please?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I just hate reading this thing. I apologize. Members of the public with questions and or comments can send correspondence to info@eastgreenbush.org. Correspondence sent to this email will not be answered in real time. Please note that this meeting will be conducted remotely only and will not be held at Town Hall, which is currently closed. Pursuant to Executive Order number 202.1, this meeting will be recorded and transcribed and posted to the town's website. Now, open the public hearing for Town Center PDD Phase 1 Major Site Plan 580 Columbia Turnpike. I'll start by reading the notice of public hearing. Please take notice that the Planning Board of the Town of East Greenbush will hold a public hearing on March 10, 2021, beginning at 7 p.m. to consider the following matter. The Town of East Greenbush Planning Board shall conduct a public hearing pursuant to Section 4.31 of the town's comprehensive zoning law on an application for the Town Center PDD Phase 1 Major Site Plan, the property located at 580 Columbia Turnpike, East Greenbush, New York. Tax map number 166.7-5 and 166.7-6.51 and 166.7-3.5, which is zone PDD. The applicant proposed a mixed-use development with a commercial space fronting on Columbia Turnpike and a maximum of 78 apartment units. The project would consist of 3 buildings, related parking lots and site amenities. The easterly front building would include approximately 12,800 square feet of commercial space on the first floor and 24 plus or minus apartment units above. The westerly front building would include approximately 9,500 square feet of commercial space on the first floor and 24 plus or minus apartment units above. The third building would be located in the rear of the site and would include approximately 30 apartment units with no commercial space. Said public hearing will be held on Wednesday, March 10th, 2021 at 7 p.m. At the above time and place, all interested parties will be given an opportunity to be heard by order of the planning board chairman. Joe, I don't have to reread the Zoom thing, do I?
No.
Okay. So maybe for the two public hearings, since we're going to hear from the projects after under old business, why don't we hold the board's comments first, unless you have any comments relative to what the public has, and then we can go through our comments as part of the later agenda, if that's okay. So I guess I'd start by seeing, is there anyone in the public, or I guess Steve Hart, go through a brief presentation of what you're proposing.
Thank you, Matt. So just to update, certainly I know the planning board has seen this on a number of occasions, but certainly there may be some people in the public that have not seen this project at all, or perhaps in a while. But the plan that you see in front of you right now was the overall PDD plan that we had been working on with the planning board and the town board over the last, let's say, 4 or 5 years. The plan has remained fairly similar over that time frame. We did reduce the number of apartment units on this overall plan from 300 down to 275 units. The buildings that you see up in the front of the site are very similar to what we had before. When we blow up this plan and we show you what's going to be our phase 1 plan, you're going to see that we took that building B, which is behind A and in front of the self-storage, how we took that building and we rotated it to make it more parallel and fronting on the main access road into this site. So the red line that was on that previous map highlighted the phase 1 plan. And basically what we have in front of you now is the blow up at a 40 scale map is the phase 1 plan. Within this phase, and as you read in the public notice, we've got a total of 78 apartment units and about 22,000 square foot of commercial space. So the two buildings in the front of the site that are fronting on Columbia Turnpike, and those are noted as buildings A and buildings F. Those two buildings have the commercial space on the first level, and then they have stories above that would be apartments only. And then building F, which is the building near the back of the site, that building, and I apologize, it's building B in the back of the site, right there where we're highlighting. Building B in the back of the site is only an apartment building. There's no commercial space within that one. So again, the commercial space is fronting on the highway, apartments up above in buildings A and F, and building B where the crosshair is now, that is all apartments. Aside from that, we've been going through the process for quite a while. Again, this plan very closely, especially phase 1 that you're looking at now, very closely mimics what we've had in front of the board for several years now. I just want to point out as well in front, we do have one project sign in front of the property. I believe we may have some details to show you later what we're proposing for that. We'll bring that up later on in the more detailed discussions that we have, but we do have a project sign there. That sign is going to be in part, is going to show some of the retailers and the businesses that we have in ours, but also it's for the self-storage place, which is behind our site, behind building B. Currently, there's a sign on the left-hand side of our site, the front left, closest to Hannaford Plaza. There's currently a sign there that has storage, the storage place highlighted on it now. So basically, we're going to enhance that sign and have the square footage put into the new proposed sign that we're going to have. We've been working with a few different ideas, thinking maybe what was recently done in the Pine Crest Plaza up there that George Shannon had constructed. We think we're going to follow that kind of format. And if we don't have a detail to share with you later today, we'll make sure we get that to you shortly. Aside from that, again, the project's very similar. We're bringing the water and the sewer up that access road in the center of the site. We've got all the DEC criteria we have to meet. We've got an underground detention system in the backside of Building F. We've got a bio-retention area on the right side of Building F. And in front of Building A, we've got what they call storm planners. And it's all about treating the water, cleaning it, detaining it, and then releasing it out to DOT. So all this water on this site flows from the back of the site to the front of the site into the DOT storm system. So certainly we're working with DOT on the permitting and the review of the curb cut access points and also the drainage that we have. So bank teller on the left-hand side of the site that you see there with the drive-through lanes. I know we had some discussions about that a couple weeks ago. We don't have any solid tenants yet, but certainly our hope, as we've discussed all along, is trying to get a restaurant user in here and then some retail people on the bottom levels. We don't know if we're going to be looking at, office space. Certainly with the recent pandemic, it seems that office space is not highly desired, but we still honestly don't know what tenants may come along here. So, but aside from that, I can cut this short because maybe there's people in the public or board members that would have comments that we'll do our best to address any comments that they may have.
All right, thanks. Adam, are folks supposed to raise their hand if they have a comment?
No, well, I'll mute folks in turn here, or unmute them, excuse me. I don't know that we have anybody from the public other than, well, we have, so Kelly, Kelly, we'll unmute you. I don't know if you're with an applicant or a member of the public.
Yeah, we're an applicant tonight.
Hey.
I was actually on the original planning board meeting about this. We were actually just saying on mute we're excited about it, so I think it's good for the town. So
So you were here for this. You were here for this project, right?
yeah, so
we're here for our own project.
for our own
but-
project, but
Oh, yeah. Okay, gotcha.
yeah, but
They have the special use permit.
Yeah, special use permit.
They have a public hearing right after this.
Yes, you're right, but I appreciate.
Thumbs up from us, I guess.
Okay. Do we have anyone else, Adam?
It looks like Kendra Hart is on.
Well, she's part of the app. She's one of the applicants. But she's welcome to speak.
And we can, we'll go to Winter as well. Winter, do you have anything to add?
There we go. As far as this project or the one I'm dealing with?
This project.
No, it looks good to me.
Great, thank you. Does that cover everyone?
And George is here from, who's an applicant, but member of the public nonetheless.
Not a town resident. Wait, is he? Oh, I thought it was a fireworks.
That's true, but I used to watch the movies there, so I'm glad to see something real going there again.
Good. I was thinking you were the, I couldn't see. I thought you were here for the fireworks.
No.
And Vin, while we're going through the applicant, Vin, if you have anything to say as a member of the public, please do. Otherwise,
No, I'm good.
Finn just wants a place to put his tent. Okay. So why don't we just, since Steve presented the maps up, why don't we take care of the board's comments now, actually, rather than do it later? So let me go through. And the intent here was not to take any action tonight. It was to have the, just get an update to do the public hearing. So I'll go with Ralph first. Ralph?
Matt, are we going to discuss this in old business also?
I was just going to take care of it now, but we can wait until
Okay.
later if you want to do that.
No, I'm fine. Just a couple questions. Thank you very much for sharing those photos of the bio detention areas. It really shed some light on what we may expect in the front. I think it's going to work well there. One of the things I think we have to address is just that concrete wall and how you're going to clean or dress that up. Another question I had, or one area that we talked about, was this egress on the left side of the project. I actually went and visited the site last week, and I'm coming up with about a 20-foot curb cut, and I'm wondering whether that is going to be sufficient for 2 lanes of traffic pulling out of there, Steve. I just think we may have to, really look at that closely, especially if we're going to have some type of drive up teller for an ATM or some type of banking transactions. I don't know if that 20 foot allows 2 cars side by side, Steve, pulling out like that.
Okay, are you guys able to hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So I'll just go down in the order that Ralph had mentioned. So the renderings, and I think that we have some to show you, but perhaps why this screen is up, the last rendering I think we had showed had some beautiful buildings, but then in the front of it where those storm planters are, we had exposed wall about 3 or 4 foot out of the ground, and it was colored on the plan as like a gray. So I think everyone had the impression that we had like a 3 foot tall, unfinished, like a house foundation wall sticking out of the ground. That is going to be a finished surface, most likely dyed the same color as the building, or it may be like a brick product with a brick ledge on it and then a brick product over the top. So basically, when you're walking on the sidewalk or you're driving a car by, you're going to see all very uniform colors, earth tone in nature. But those storm planters with that wall, again, that's going to be like 3 to 4 feet higher than the sidewalk or the road elevation, will be a finished product to match the facade of the building and really dress up the front of the site. So so hopefully that addresses the concrete wall questions there. As far as the drive-through, so we are looking at a couple things there. So we did label a couple dimensions, and we moved the ATM window back a little bit. And I think what we had showed last time maybe was a little bit more deceiving because we had cars sort of stacked in front of the drive-through, which really wouldn't be the case. So there's a 75-foot dimension on the left side of that roadway. So we just wanted to call out how far back that was from the edge of the asphalt. So that really would be about 3 to 4 cars that would be able to stack there if need be. And I did not want to change the plans last minute, but I agree with what Ralph is saying. We're showing a 20-foot dimension right next to that 75-foot dimension where that road is getting goosed down a little bit. And I don't really think that we need 24 feet because 24 feet is what our main access drive is. But I do think that 20-foot dimension, we should widen it as we're looking at this plan to the right. And we can also get rid of that little crook in that little area there that may want to give a driver the idea that they got to push out and go into the other lane like they get forced there. So I think what we'd like to do is make that 20-foot a 22-foot dimension and therefore kick that radius out a little bit wider heading in the Albany direction. So, and those radiuses right now are probably about a 33-foot radius, which comes close to meeting what DOT has. The one on the left-hand side, closer to Hannaford Plaza, they wanted us to mimic the radius that is out there now, because if it gets kicked over any further, it's going to go over in front of the property line, which they don't like. And there's also a catch basin there, and they don't want a radius coming and turning right out on top of that catch basins there. So DOT did ask us to hold that point there, but I don't think they would have issue with us trying to widen it heading into like in heading towards the Rensselaer direction. So, we do plan on making modifications to that, but I really did want to talk, and present this to the board tonight so we could get other feedback as well from the board. And also we tried showing some of those white lines on there just to better delineate that there's two different lanes there. And also if we needed, I talked with Tyler today about maybe throwing some like bollards, maybe some yellow painted bollards in there if we needed to. We probably would prefer not to, and maybe we could do it with maybe some paint striping or something, but, and I say only prefer not to only because of like winter plowing and things of that nature. But, if we did have to come off, let's say 12 foot off the ATM, that would be similar to what a bank island would be if you had drive-through tellers and things like that. So if the board felt it was better to put some bollards or something out there, we could formulate, make them look like they're a curb, absolutely what Tyler's drawing on the map now. So again, we're hearing what you're saying as far as the safety and the turning movement. So we're open for suggestions to how we think we could best handle that.
Well, my first thought was some type
Sorry,
of.
guys. Can I just ask one thing? Is it Bowlers?
Bollards. BLLARDS.
My first thought was some type of curbing or bollard to kind of delineate between the two lines. But after giving us some thought, I agree. In the wintertime, they would be nothing but a nuisance. So, I think if you really give it some thought and do some type of striping, maybe some signage on the side or something, I think that may take care of that. Widening that throat going into 9 and 20, I think is going to take care of some of the issues that I had thought we may have. And one last point, it's a small point, but you have a dumpster enclosure in the back of building, whatever the building is in the back there, Steve.
Yep.
Keep going to the back if you don't mind, Tyler. And I just wondered if you could orient that on the other side so that it's not visible from 9 and 20. If you could put it so it's facing basically the Hannaford Plaza, move it in those two parking spots rather than there. It is visible right from 9 and 20. If that could be put there, you still could come around with a garbage truck and pick up that way rather than straight on.
Yeah, I think honestly, Ralph, that's a great suggestion. The garbage truck would need to loop around there regardless if he can pull straight in, but then he would have to back out and loop around that interior loop on that. So whether we do that initially or after we pick up, it's the same. So I think we could make that work, and that's a good suggestion. I appreciate that.
Thank you. That's all I have, man.
All right, thanks, Ralph. I appreciate it. Next, we'll go on to Kurt.
No, I have no comments.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll go on to Chris.
Well, I have to say, knowing that Ralph was going before me, I figured that I would not have the opportunity to bring up the dumpster comment that had already been brought up. I totally agree. The location of that dumpster would be preferably moved somewhere out of sight. The only thing I'm thinking about with the exit and the width of where that drive-through would be, it just seems like it would be a lot safer option if that was turned into a right turn only. Then you wouldn't have the cars in the two double lanes. And I appreciate the perspective that you added with the striping and the arrows so we could see better the widths. But it just seems like not only do you have the possibility of cars trying to cross each other in a very short distance to go one way or the other, but there's no light at the main entrance. And, you're going to have cars turning right out of that main entrance while someone's trying to turn left out of the side entrance in the wintertime with snow piled high. It just seems like a pretty short distance. So that's the only thing I'd ask you to consider is would it be better to just make that a right turn only and mitigate some of the traffic concern?
We can certainly look into that, Chris, and thank you. Is there a chance, and I don't know if this would work, and I haven't spoken with Tyler, but as you're mentioning what you have there, is there a chance that if we made that like a a single lane coming out of there, and that might be contradictory to what we just talked with Ralph, but if it was only one lane where people could turn, they basically are going to turn left or right. Would that perhaps make that situation better? And I'm thinking out loud as I bring this up, so.
Yeah, it's a trade-off, because then is the car going to get stuck behind another car going through the drive-through?
So it'd be two lanes with you'd still have the bypass lane, but maybe where we said we were going to widen that to 22 foot, do we make it like 14 foot? So it's a single lane. The
Yeah,
hold up there would be the guy that wants to get out and take a right-hand turn might get held up behind the guy who wants to come out and take a left, So again, it's
Yeah.
just as you were talking, Chris, it was just something I was thinking about, but certainly we'll take consideration and give some more thought to that.
But Steve, to your point, I mean, that might make sense, right? There's a center median there for people to take a left and bide their time if traffic's not coming
Yeah.
one direction, right? So
Yeah.
the flow would work.
I will tell you, DOT always takes that into consideration as well. If this was a 4-lane highway with no center median, they'd be looking at it certainly more strict. But when you do have center medians where cars can queue up or pull out and wait, they do look into that. So we'll think of that more internally and also speak with DOT about that as well. I do believe, and I don't think that we had the letter for tonight, but we spoke with our traffic engineer, and I think there was about one car every 2 minutes. I think in total it was 38 cars. So that would be in the peak hour. So I'm assuming that would be in the PM hour, that there's 38 vehicles that they project would come through there. So some of them would be bank customers. Some of them would be people, say, coming out of the retail or the apartment building. So, if you did think of it, that's roughly one every 2 minutes. Some of them are going to take right-hand turns and probably, pull up there for 5 seconds and be able to take a right-hand turn. But left-hand turns, you get a little bit more backed up. But we'll continue to do our homework on our end and update the board at the next meeting.
Yeah, I think about the right-hand turn that is just down past Route 4 on the right-hand side, that I can't think of which bank it is, that you can cut through basically from the Hannaford Plaza to Columbia Turnpike, but it's a right turn only. That, is a quick way to jump on, and that seems to be, I don't know what the traffic flow there is compared to what this is predicted to be, but.
I think that has more to do with the left-hand turn into the light.
Probably does, yeah. But I just look at even we don't have a light, I understand, at this main entrance, but it's a pretty close proximity to cars that are trying to pull out from there. So.
Well, one thing it may eliminate, if you have two cars pulling up to exit, one going left and one going right, the cars actually block the view. If you want to turn right and there's a car right next to you, you really can't. And he's pulled up a little bit farther. You really can't see what's coming towards Skodak. So that may be a possibility, Steve. That may be a good solution. And just limiting down to one lane may eliminate that issue with two cars pulled side by side.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, anything else?
No, I'm good.
All right, thank you. Don? You might be on mute, but I can't really see you right now.
Can you hear me now?
Yep. You got anything?
Yes. This building's they're facing 9 and 20. On the right-hand side, it's a 4-story building. On the left-hand side, it's a 3-story building. Okay. I was wondering how many floors are going to be commercial?
So Don, on the lower level, so the first level is geared for retail, restaurant, things of that nature. So in both buildings, the first floor is commercial and the stories above are residential apartments.
Okay. I wasn't sure how that broke down. One other question. I saw the pond in the back. I never noticed that before. 6 existing pond. Is that all natural? Do you hear me?
The pond in the back, when you say the back, how far back?
They had a real deep picture, going back away from 9 and 20. And I never noticed that before. It's an existing pond.
Yeah, that pond's been there a long time.
As part of the final phase of the project.
So that's just something that's always been there.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
John, didn't you ever go back there and party when you're a kid?
I grew up close to there. Let's put it that way, on Old Troy Road. But I never went back that far. But
Yeah.
I never noticed it before.
I can tell you about it.
That's all my questions.
Thank
Okay.
you, Don.
John Conway? Can't hear him either. I don't know if he's
Yeah.
on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, you're
Yes, we
good.
can.
Yeah, I've just got a couple of, I guess, one concern I'd just like to throw out there. And, you know, I know I'm not on the zoning board anymore, and I try to not think that way, but this project is directly across the street from a B1 zone, and probably would be a B1 if it weren't for the PDD, right?
That is
And,
correct.
So it's kind of a mixed use, intended for pedestrian as well as commercial use. And I'm just looking at it, I'm trying to figure out, you know, is this really consistent with a mixed use, a pedestrian, commercial sort of use?
So the underlying zone here, John, as you mentioned, is a B1. So within the B1, they promote that whole mixed use. So that was the idea of having the commercial down below and the apartments up above. The ratios per the permitted use in the B1 is like 30% commercial to 70% residential. I think the PDD allowed us to be a little bit more dense in this first phase that you see here, but for the most part, this is almost spot on with what that B1 zone would allow.
Yeah, I was thinking more in terms of, you know, the actual pedestrian use. We talked a little bit at the last meeting about the sidewalks, you know, possibly being too close. And, you know, another concern for a B1 is, you know, you couldn't have a drive-through at all. You know, is that sort of thing really interfering with that sort of pedestrian use? And if we assume that this is a legitimate concern, and, you know, maybe it's not, but if it is, just where are we expecting people to walk from and to, I guess, you know? It's kind of my question.
Well, John, I'll point out a couple of things here. So in terms of the pedestrian components, we've added things like bike racks here, here, and here. We have some outdoor recreational spaces here and here for the residents of the units. In terms of, you know, you talk about other recreational mixed use components of the project, you know, obviously not on this map here, but literally just on the other side of Columbia Turnpike behind Funplex is the new bike trail. So what the DOT is doing at this point, maybe a year ago now, they did the ADA upgrades to the existing sidewalks. The sidewalk is going to be renovated down to the Route 4 intersection. And last fall, they extended it to connect with the bike trail. So I think in terms of pedestrian accessibility and those amenities, I think this speaks to exactly what the B1 calls for. When you talk about other aspects of the B1 that would be unique to this corridor, you know, it's the concept of the buildings being pushed up to the street with a minimum of 2-story building height. You know, there was a variance given for the Verizon Wireless, and they did kind of the partial second story, but we really haven't seen anybody follow through with that on Columbia Turnpike in terms of the building setback. So I think that the B1 calls for maximum setback of about 25 feet, and that's exactly what these buildings do. So compared to anything else proposed on Columbia Turnpike, I think this is the closest example of what a B1 would call for.
Okay, good, thank you. Another question, and I do appreciate the quick turnaround on the elevations and all that. But as I was looking at the elevations, I was just wondering if there were specific areas on the elevation where you think signage will be placed. I noticed that I think I read where a lot of it is going to be sort of the retractable awning coming off the building, and I was trying to see where signage might go for the commercial areas.
Yeah, and I apologize, guys, because this load's kind of slow, so with the screen sharing, it's sometimes a little slow, but the elevations, you know, we put signage across the front here. So signage would be in these various different areas, and as part of the PDD, we basically have approval for 2 standalone pylons in addition to signage on the Columbia Turnpike side of the building, so we'll call that the front side, and then the parking lot, which we call the back side of the building, so there'd be signage on both sides.
Okay, and do you know what the approximate dimensions of that area is?
I would have to pull the PDD. I want to say it's 32 square feet.
Yeah, okay. All right, those are my questions. Thank you.
All right, thanks, John. So I think we had one more member of the public that entered. Mr. Turpinning, do you have anything you want to add? Adam, if you want to unmute him.
Good evening. You're just accepting comments regarding the town center project or for the Whalen or both?
We're still in town center in the public hearing.
All right. I share some concerns about the ingress and egress sections that Mr. Conway had concerned about. I got a question. Are they wide enough for larger vehicles to use either during or after the first phase is completed? Will the construction vehicles use the same egress and ingress points during the future phases of this project? Will the west egress from the left side of the building cause collision points from east egress from the right side of the building? This is kind of the same.
Sorry, not to interrupt, but if you want answers tonight, let's just do one at a time. Otherwise, maybe the applicant can make a list and then reply in writing. I don't know, whichever you prefer. I'm just having trouble taking notes as to the various questions myself.
Okay, I have other comments too, but I'll put them in writing and send them to you.
Or you're welcome to keep rolling through them. It's up to you.
Okay. The other part is
at that pace. I don't think we can respond to all the questions.
As you know, Mr. Steve Hart was included with the Turnpike redevelopment, was involved with the Turnpike redevelopment project, as well as many other entities developing properties in town of East Greenbush. Have you been made aware of any zoning violations resulting in stop work order dated 3/2/2021 regarding the 264 Columbia Turnpike and Martin Electric? As you may or may not know, the Hart family has a 65% interest in the Turnpike Redevelopment Group LLC, which owns the 164 Columbia Turnpike property. In addition, Martin Electric is owned and operated by members of the Hart family. Given the extent of these violations, if I were a resident in the neighborhood surrounding the town center project, this information might certainly raise concerns. At the very least, if I was one of those neighbors, I would ask more questions about the future actions on this project, given Mr. Stephen Hart's relationship with the parties concerned with the stop work order. I'll put all this stuff in writing and send it to the planning board.
Yep. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So with respect, Matt, I don't mind addressing the like the access with the truck. So the curb cut access points here will meet like DOT standards that they have, whether it be a 33 or 34 foot radius there. So the intent that any of the curb cuts we're making out onto the highway need to be approvable through DOT. So as far as access and vehicles that come through there, there won't be any issues with that. And certainly future phases, we're try to come up with a plan to try to limit how the access points would be for future phases for construction vehicles. We're a bit thankful here that the Whitbeck family has got some access points out to Gilligan Road and Phillips Road. So in future phases, we might be able to access a site through a different location, so we're not beating up this road here.
Okay. And I will add that, I think the planning board has done a very good job of, bringing up valid comments about the road width. I mean, that left, the egress, the left-hand side, we beat that up in the last meeting quite a bit, and we're obviously still talking about it today. We're not taking action on it. So I appreciate your comments, Mr. Turpinning, but I also hope that you understand that we're reviewing this very stringently. Okay, so with that, I think we've heard from everyone in the public. I'll go through the formalities here. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak for the Town Center PDD Phase 1 major site plan? Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of the Town Center PDD Phase 1 major site plan? Finally, is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of the Town Center PDD Phase 1 major site plan? Is there anyone that would like to speak against the Town Center PDD Phase 1 major site plan? Is there anyone that would like to speak against the Town Center PDD Phase 1 major site plan? And finally, is there anyone that would like to speak against the Town Center PDD Phase 1 major site plan? All right, Joe, I'm closing the public hearing, right?
Yes, closing it.
All right, with that, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for the Town Center PDD Phase 1 major site plan. Do I have a second?
Second.
That was, I don't know who that was. Someone beat Bergman, but we're going to give it to Mr. Bergman.
Okay, roll call as follows. Chairman Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Viola,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Ms. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Panton,
Don, I think you must be on mute.
I can't see him. Is he giving a thumbs up or anything?
Don, give a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
I'm unmuted. Yes.
All right. There we go.
Mr. Conway,
Yes.
motion carried by 6-0 vote.
All right. So I don't think we really need to address that in this project in old business. So if you guys want to go, you're welcome to go.
Hey, Matt, if I can just bring up one thing, and I only want to bring it up because a few board members talked about it last time. Just with regards to the fencing, I think there was a desire not to have us use vinyl stockade fencing, and we're in agreement with that. So we're going to be looking at decorative aluminum. We're going to be looking at chain link with privacy slats and things of that nature. So we just wanted to let you know we're in agreement with that comment that was made last week.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
All right. With that, we have Wayland. We're going to open the public hearing for Wayland 592 Elliott Road for a special use permit. I'll begin by reading the notice of public hearing. Please take notice that the planning board of the town of East Greenbush will hold a public hearing on March 10th, 2021, beginning at 7 p.m. to consider the following matter. The town of East Greenbush Planning Board shall conduct a public hearing pursuant to New York State Law, Town Law, Section 274-B6 and Section 3.11.1 of the town's comprehensive zoning law on an application for a special use permit for the property located at 592 Elliott Road, East Greenbush, New York, tax map number 167.4-6.21, which is zoned RB. The applicant proposes the renovation of a basement with an in-law apartment. The review of the proposed work requires a special use permit per the town's comprehensive zoning law, Section 2, Table 2A, use schedule, references an accessory dwelling unit, requires a special use permit in the RB zoning district. Said public hearing will be held on Wednesday, March 10th, 2021 at 7 p.m. via Zoom. At the above time and place, all interested parties will be given an opportunity to be heard by order of the planning board, Matt Maston, chairman. Pursuant to executive order number 202.1, issued by Governor Cuomo on March 12th, 2020, and advisories issued by federal, state, and local officials related to COVID-19 virus, the planning board will convene the public hearing remotely as follows. The public hearing will commence at 7 p.m. and shall be conducted through the use of Zoom, a web-based video conference tool with local desktop client and smartphone applications that will allow board members and the public to participate electronically and remotely by audio and with or without a video connection. The meeting will also be live streamed on the town's YouTube channel, which is posted on the town's website. Okay, so is the applicant unmuted?
Yep, we're here.
All right, you guys just want to give us just a brief rundown of what you're looking to do?
Yeah, sure. So,
Share screen.
yeah, well, basically we're renovating the basement apartment, or basement that we currently have. It's just turning it into a apartment for my grandfather. That's eventually going to be turned into an apartment for my parents, Westchester, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Okay, he cut out a little bit, so I got the grandfather, and then he is, and I didn't get what his grandfather is.
So
No, I was just saying, and once my grandfather passes, it'll be then utilized by my parents.
Okay, thank you. So, John Conway, you did a report on this, or you visited this?
I did not. I did Grapes and Grains, which is coming up, I think.
Oh, I got bad information. Did anyone review this, Allison?
No, I remember in the past that,
Oh, I think we
because
stopped doing
the special, yeah, because you guys are handling them as like a group, that it didn't need to be assigned.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, we used to do recommendations because it went to the zoning board.
Matt, do you want to ask any questions about the general standards for special use permits in the comprehensive zoning law, such as parking, things like that, traffic access?
Yeah, I was going to go through the board members and then go to the public, but yeah, Joe, do you have it in front of you? Mine's in my car. Can you?
Yeah, I have it right here. So the first general standard is the location and size of the use, the nature and intensity of the operations involved, the size of the site in relation to the use, and the location of the site with respect to the existing and future streets providing access, which shall be in harmony with the orderly development of the district. I don't see that this proposal would not be in harmony with the district. The second standard is the location, nature, and height of the buildings, walls, and fences, and the nature and intensity of intended operations will not discourage the appropriate development and use of adjacent land and buildings or impair the value thereof. Thank you, Adam. Got it up on the screen. So if you guys want to take a look and see if you have any questions relating to those general standards. I think most importantly, when you're dealing with a special use permit with an in-law apartment like this, you just want to make sure that there's an extra parking spot for the person living there. There's no issues with ingress or egress. It seems like this is going to be within the existing footprint of the building, so that shouldn't be an issue. It really shouldn't be inconsistent with the harmony of the neighborhood.
Yeah, the character and appearance isn't going to change, I would think, right?
And the 93-year-old grandfather is probably not going to be making too much noise. So,
do you have sufficient space for three cars?
Yeah, we have a very long driveway, loop driveway too.
All right, so based on the zoning section, I'm gonna go through the board members. Ralph, any comments or questions?
All right, just one comment as far as the egress to the basement. I know with an elderly person being handicapped, hopefully you've got the proper egress and exit out of that basement apartment for God forbid something were to happen.
So
whether it be those new egress windows or something like that, I'm sure you're going to have to provide.
Yeah, so we have, exactly. We have egress windows, I think, in all the plans that have been presented to the board, to the town, submitted to the town for applications. So,
okay. That's my only concern. Thank you.
Thanks, Ralph. Kurt?
No questions.
All right. Chris?
Yeah, I was gonna ask about egress also. Will there be 2 points of egress from the apartment?
Yeah.
I wasn't quite sure what you had said about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so currently we have one access to the basement, which is just the basement, front door, basically will block as the front door of the apartment. But we're also going to be adding, egress windows in two of the rooms in the basement, and we're actually adding an entirely separate entrance on the other side of the house, just like adding a cellar door entrance. So we're actually adding 3 separate egress entrances.
Great. Okay, thank you. I'm all set, Matt.
Thanks, Chris. Don?
I think he's on mute.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep. We got you.
On the egress, the elderly person is 93 years old. Is he going to be able to walk? He's not going to have to crawl through a window or anything.
No. Yeah, we've got there's as I said, we're adding 2 egress windows, but we're also adding a cellar door on the other side of the apartment.
To the outside, right? The cellar door is going to be
to the outside. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. That's what I wanted.
They'll have the original door going in, and then we'll have the cellar door going out. So, yeah, I guess
to the outside environment.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
So I guess the original door is where the kitchen we've proposed. That's the little swing right there. And then this new cellar door we're gonna add is on the other side right here.
Yeah, that's a horrible thing if there's a fire above them. So okay.
Yeah, well, let's hope that doesn't. I think we'll be in trouble too. So.
Yeah, and just to clarify too, this doesn't necessarily give them a building permit. They'll have to work with Kevin at the building department to get that, and I assume he's brought them up to what the code is in town and all that.
Yeah, this will be subject to all New York State building codes, because if they get a special use permit, then they're going to have to apply for the building permit.
We've been in touch with Kevin Hitchcock already. So.
All right, Don, you good?
I'm good.
John Conway?
I'd just like to ask about one room that I couldn't find an identification for. Between that one room that's identified as a study and the utility room.
This one, that's so the where the stairs are.
Yeah.
Currently, where our wood stove is. So what we're basically doing is it's just gonna be currently if you see where that beam is that connects into where the utility room is. Currently there's drywall right there, so we're just gonna knock down the drywall. So it's just gonna be an expansion of the utility room.
Okay, and this property sits on kind of a little bit of a hill, if I remember from what I've seen.
Yep.
There's no place where there's a ground level sort of entrance or exit to the property, to the basement apartment.
The main door is.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. The main door is, which is right here. Exactly.
Okay.
That's ground level. Yeah.
Okay, I see.
That's the only current entrance that's there, which is probably ground level. Our house is, I don't know if any of you are familiar with this house, but it's sort of built into the hill, so to speak. So
that's why you can put the other door in the basement, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like if you looked at our house from Elliott Road, it would look like it's a one-story house, but it actually goes further down because we're sort of built into a hill.
Okay.
Good. I'm good. Thank you.
You're good. Thanks, John. All right, so we'll go to the public. Adam, can you just go through anyone who's on from the public and see if they have any comment?
Yeah, give me 1 second, Matt.
Well, I got it here. Mr. Turpinning, you have anything? Adam, you have to unmute him, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Got a few things here. First of all, it's nice to see that came before the planning board for review and approval before he actually went through the project. That's a nice thing to see. It's admirable that he's trying to provide a home-like environment so that his older relatives can enjoy a close relationship with his family. It's still a residential property, as for most everyone else. His property value will be reassessed, adding to this residential tax base. He appears to be doing everything by the book. As a member of the public, I vote in support of this approval of his special use permit application going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks, David.
So next we'll go to Vin. Vin, do you have any comment?
Oh, I'm good.
You good? All right. Winter? She's still muted, Adam. There she
I got it. No, I'm good. Thank you.
George? Thumbs up? All right. So we run through everyone. Okay, so with the, would anyone like to speak in favor of the Wayland 592 Elliott Road special use permit? Would anyone like to speak in favor of the Wayland 592 Elliott Road special use permit? Finally, would anyone like to speak in favor of the Wayland 592 Elliott Road special use permit? Anyone like to speak against the Wayland 592 Elliott Road special use permit? Would anyone like to speak against the Wayland 590 Elliott Road special use permit? And finally, would it speak against the Wayland 592 Elliott special use permit? With that, I make a motion to close the Wayland 592 Elliott Road special use permit public hearing. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
John Conway got the second.
Roll call this follows. Chairman Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Viola,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Ms. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Panton,
Yes, Don Panton, yes.
okay, Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Motion carried by 6-0 vote.
All right. So then we'll jump into old business. 2104 Wayland 592 Elliott Road for a special use permit for conditional approval. I'll go through the board, see if anyone else has any comments. Mr. Viola?
I'm fine, Matt. Thank you.
Mr. Bergman?
No comments.
Ms. Horn?
No comment.
Mr. Panton?
Have they checked to see if there's a radon problem?
Yeah, we had that inspected. We just bought a house in November, so during the inspection, that was checked.
Okay, because usually it shouldn't be too bad if you got a wall that's less exposed to the earth, so usually the radon's down. So it was okay?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
Past
All right.
inspection.
I'm okay.
Mr. Conway?
I'm okay. I'm good.
Okay. So with that, I'm going to make a motion that whereas an application has been filed by Josh Whalen and Kelly Henderson of 592 Elliott Road, East Greenwich, New York, RB zoning district, proposing the renovation of their basement with an in-law apartment. And whereas the proposal would constitute an accessory dwelling unit in the town's RB zone, requiring a special use permit. Whereas the applicant has filed an application for a special use permit for an accessory dwelling unit at the property located at 592 Elliott Road, East Greenwich, New York, tax map number 167.4-6.21. And whereas the planning board has duly published a notice of public hearing regarding this appeal in the record on March 4th, 2021. And whereas the notice of the initial public hearing was provided by certified mail to the owners of all property within 200 feet of the land involved in the application. to the Town Planning Board and to the Rensselaer County Bureau of Economic Development and Planning. And whereas a public hearing was held by the Planning Board on Wednesday, March 10, 2021 to consider this appeal. And whereas at this hearing, the applicant, as well as any and all persons interested in this appeal, were heard, their statements recorded, and various written material, including exhibits, if any, were entered into the record. And whereas all statements, written materials, and exhibits submitted in connection with said appeal have been carefully considered. And whereas the planning board has carefully reviewed the materials submitted in connection with this appeal under SECRA, including the short environmental assessment form, and hereby classifies the action as a type 2 action under 6 CRR-NY 617.5 C18. Now therefore, be it resolved that the planning board makes the following findings of fact. The location and size of the use, the nature and intensity of the operation involved, the size of the site in relation to the use, and the location of the site with respect to the existing and any future streets providing access in harmony with orderly development of the RB zoning district, and the nature and intensity of the intended operation will not discourage the appropriate development and use of adjacent land and buildings or impair the value thereof. Proposed traffic access ways are adequate. Off-street parking is not necessary or required for the proposal. The proposal would not be contrary to the general harmony of the neighborhood. Be it further resolved that the application for special use permit for the renovation of the basement with an in-law apartment be granted with the following conditions. The applicant must comply with all local, state, and federal laws in the construction of their accessory dwelling unit. This resolution was moved by myself, Matt Maston. May I have a second? Conway got it. I saw Conway's hand before Chris.
Roll call as follows. Matt Maston,
Yes.
Ralph Viola,
Yes.
Kurt Bergman,
Yes.
Don Panton,
Don Panton, yes.
Chris Horn,
Yes.
John Conway.
Yes.
Motion carried by 6-0 vote.
All right. Good luck, guys.
Thank
you so much.
Appreciate it, guys.
Next, we'll move on to 2106 Phantom Fireworks 570 Columbia Turnpike.
Okay, am I all set, you guys?
Yeah, I'll
yeah.
go to Terry. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good night.
Hello, everybody. We're proposing the same we've done for the last 6 years. 10th and 5 East Greenbush Bowling Alley. Nothing has changed except the dates because yearly the dates change. Our proposal is to bring in our storage unit on the 16th, delivery on the 17th, on the 18th, the 10th final setup and signage, and hopefully the inspection and opening it on the 20th. And taking it down on July 5th.
Okay. So we get these applications every year. Every applicant ends up, we give them the same dates of when they can set up, when they can come down, when signs can go up. So we go through about 8 different conditions. But I'll just go through the board members and see who has comments or questions. So Ralph?
The only question I have, Adam, was there any comments from the building inspector and or the East Greenbush Police in regards to the location at the bowling alley last year?
Thanks, Ralph. Nothing from the building inspector. We did not ping the police department. I would imagine they would be in fairly close touch on this, but we didn't get anything back from Kevin on this.
Okay, thank you.
Good, Ralph?
Yep.
Thanks. Kurt?
No questions. Thank you.
Chris?
No questions.
Don?
I'm good. Am I muted again? I'm here.
You're good.
I'm good? All right.
Yep. John?
No questions.
Okay. We'll take it easy.
I couldn't, hold on, Matt. I couldn't hear what he said initially about, he said a date of the 16th and then the 17th and then the 18th. Vin, can you repeat what you said?
Our proposal is to drop the storage on the 16th. On the 17th, actually take the delivery product. On the 18th, we'll set up for inspection because the town has to inspect us because our opening date is the 20th, which is this month.
Yeah, so our dates are you can't set up a tent before the 18th.
That's not a problem.
What's that?
That's not a problem. That's what we intend to.
Matt, I believe the proposed resolution we had didn't allow delivery of product
or June
before June 17th. So that either has to be modified to the 16th or
no 17th. The only thing that's going on the 16th is actually storage in itself.
So your products will be delivered on the 17th.
Correct.
Okay, the storage unit's going to be there the 16th. Okay, got it.
Okay, so it sounds like we're good, right?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay. So I will make a motion for 570 Columbia Turnpike for minor site plan modification that Town of East Green Meadows Planning Board classifies this project as a type 2 action under SECRA 6CRR-NY 617.5 C21, minor temporary uses of land having negligible or permanent impact on the environment, and hereby grants final approval of the proposed temporary minor site plan modification subject to the following. Tent setup will not occur before June 18th, 2021 and shall be removed no later than July 6th, 2021. All external signs and advertising not be displayed prior to June 20th, 2021 and shall be removed no later than July 5th, 2021. The business must be run in full compliance with local, county, state, and federal laws. The above mentioned modification will be limited to a one-time use for the period of June 20th, 2021 to July 5th, 2021. The applicant must consult with the building department and complete all applicable permits, including but not limited to signage. All signage must be connected to the tent. Absolutely no signage shall be placed along Columbia Turnpike. Hours of operation shall be limited to 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Adequate lighting shall be provided on site. Shipment of products is not to arrive prior to June 17th, 2021. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Panton.
Roll call as follows. Chairman Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Viola,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Ms. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Panton,
Yes.
Mr. Conway,
Yes.
motion carried by 6-0 vote.
See you next year.
Next year. All right. Thank you.
So 2107, it's been taken off the agenda. Next we'll go to 1408 Deer Pond Elliott Road. I think we're taking that off the agenda as well. Because they're not on to give us an update. And then we'll go to new business 2105 15 Troy Road for a chiropractic office. Is that you, George? Is that your project?
Yeah, but winter's the.
It's booked. Sorry.
It's a joint effort at this point.
All right. So if you just want to give us a brief overview, and then our intent tonight is to schedule a public hearing.
Okay. Like we discussed in our original meeting, I'm a chiropractor. I have an extremely small office where I see 1 to 2 patients at a time. So not high volume at all. I currently am at 91 Troy Road. So the square footage of that office is a little bit smaller than what I will hopefully be moving to. Obviously the parking there is a completely different situation, but it's very shared. So this will hopefully be a better fit for us too. I know you brought up parking as a potential issue in the last meeting. George has provided us with some diagrams of the actual square footage of road frontage and, how many parking spots we can actually create there, along with some parking that is actually across the street, where I believe myself and the tenants of the attached house would park. And that would leave, 4 solid parking spots for patients in that area. Obviously, medical use suggests that we should have 5 based on what you guys told me last time. I'm hoping that a waiver would be acceptable in regards to the parking issue.
Okay. So from the board, I guess we'll run through again for any comments, questions. Start with Ralph.
Could you just explain exactly where 15 Troy Road is in relationship to 9 and 20?
What did it used to be? I guess that's maybe an easier.
So, all right, well, back in the day it was Melfi Real Estate.
Okay.
Yeah, then it was the travel.
And then the travel agency since 2001.
Okay.
Had the sign outside that said it's 85 degrees in Cancun.
Okay.
But honestly, I would tell people, I own Blue Skies Travel, and they're like, what? And I'm like, it's 85 in Cancun. Like, oh, I know where that is. They had no idea where Blue
Okay.
Skies Travel was.
Yeah. I'm sorry, George. Now I understand where it is. Thank you.
We're the temperature people.
Right.
My mom worked for Melfi Real Estate when I was young. Spent many hours in that building.
Yeah.
Ralph, any other comments or questions?
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
All right. Kurt,
No questions.
Chris?
Yeah, I'm not sure where we are in the stage, but seeing as it was already a commercial use, we've had discussions on the planning board in the past about the landscaping norms along Troy Road and what kind of signage, to have some sort of sign that has a perimeter around it. I was wondering if you have any plans for changing the landscaping or for your signage.
We can at least definitely attest to the signage. George and I were working up a diagram, if you will. The existing pole that is there will be removed. It will recede back into the property, further up onto the little knoll, if you will, with a new signage that meets the 4x4, I think by 6 requirements. And we're working up a kind of a mock-up of that as we speak. So it should be conforming under, current rules. As far as the landscaping goes, I'm not sure what is required in regards to that. Certainly if that's, like you said, making a small perimeter around it, planting some bushes just to make the curb appeal better, that's certainly something I'm open to. I just did not know what was required.
Yes. So I get, so Chris, to your point about where we are in the process, tonight our intent is just to review the project again and then schedule a public hearing. So they would be back on March 24th. And so it's a special use permit, not a site plan technically.
Yeah.
Right.
I have a question, Adam. Is Kevin's not requiring a site plan for this change of use? Have you talked to him about that at all?
I have not. I will follow up with him on that. Yeah, I'll follow up. And also I will provide some comments on the proposal, and I will also, Winter and Chris, look at the landscaping required there and just give a sense of what the code would require for the board and Winter and George, your consideration. The other thing, the map that you provided shows the existing conditions, George. Yeah. What I think would be helpful, and I think it's going to depend on Joe's question about about whether Kevin would require a site plan, is how much proposed conditions you're gonna need to include on that site plan. So right now it's just existing. So we'll give you some more guidance on that as well.
Okay.
Coach, do you have anything else?
No, thank you.
Don Panton?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Now, my question is, I'm a little confused. The travel agency is going to remain, right?
Travel agency
No.
down the road, I think, right?
The travel agency, I couldn't hear you. Travel agency is not going to be there anymore?
Travel
Can you hear me?
agency moved into the old Moskowitz dentist office.
Oh, okay. All right. I got it.
We moved about 100 feet down the road, I think, or something.
Yeah.
Which was the old troopers barracks years ago.
It was the old troopers barracks. I'm dying to get old pictures of that. I only have a couple.
That's correct.
Okay. Now that answers my question.
Thanks, Tom. John Conway?
Just to get a little oriented here, the address for this property is on Troy Road. Is it actually accessible from Troy Road?
No. It's Greenbush Ave.
Okay.
It's on the side road.
Yeah, I think my concern would be, you know, what does it look like from Troy Road? And I think it's good that the parking is not right on Troy Road, because that would be an issue for us. But I think the structure is also back a bit from Troy Road. It seems to be that we're looking at the side of the building from Troy Road.
Yes, you are looking at the side of it from Troy Road.
Yeah, so I think that's where the landscaping may come in, you know, and you might want to give some consideration to it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's really just basically an old stick-built house that was converted into the real estate agency and then travel agency.
Right.
Unless
Half of it's a slab that used to be the garage, and the other side is with the crawl space underneath. That was the addition on that John Melfi built in '52. So yeah.
Anything else, John?
That's it for me. Thank you.
Does the applicant have anything else?
I think those were the major concerns that you asked me to address, you know, last time. So with George's help, we were able to try to do that. And obviously we have a little more to consider as far as Kevin's input and like you said, the landscaping potential issues.
Sure. All right, well, I appreciate it. So with that, I'll make a motion to schedule a public hearing for special use permit at 15 Troy Road. Public hearing is hereby scheduled for March 24th, 2021 via Zoom at 7 p.m. Do I have a second? Kurt's got it. I love the sign.
Roll call as follows, Chairman Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Viola,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Ms. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Panton,
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Motion carried by 6-0 vote.
Thanks,
Great.
everyone.
Thank you guys for coming in. We'll see you on the 24th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next referrals, reports, recommendations. So I think on the agenda, the new ZBA referral should actually be up there, right? What's under? So we have ZBA Appeal 2021-02 Rensselaer County Plaza, 279 Troy Road, which is Grapes and Grains, an area variance for a sign, and a report by John Conway.
All right. I'm up.
You're up.
All right.
Time to sign. Your first one, right?
Yeah. This is a request for an area variance for Grapes and Grains liquor store. They want to put a sign up, a new sign, and the design that they've given us in their packet is measures 96 square feet. According to the building inspector, the law allows just 24 square feet in this situation. So this is in a building that's in the Walmart Plaza, what I would call the Walmart Plaza. I guess it's technically the Rensselaer County Plaza, but it's the Walmart Plaza, and it's in the brick building that's just to the north of the Walmart building. It takes up a tiny bit of well, it's one of the smaller, I'll put it that way, one of the smaller stores in that building. You know, that the building runs from Panera Bread to Brugger's Bagels. And there's a couple other things there, Hallmark cards, and St. Peter's Health now has a big sort of presence there. But at any rate, there's some mention in the papers in the application about the visibility from Route 4 and all that sort of stuff. So I was just curious as I was doing the report, and I took a look at the Google Earth thing, and it measures about 650 feet from Route 4. And I just, people like to be highly visible when they're in business and all that, but I don't know. You'd have to put quite a sign on it in order for that to be seen, I think, for Route 4. Given the fact that people are most of the day going by at 40 miles an hour. I was surprised that the plaza really doesn't have an identifying sign out front, monument or pylon sign that tells who their tenants are. On the Route 4 side, they just have a sign that identifies Walmart and PetSmart and Regal Cinemas, I believe. And on the 3rd Avenue side, which would actually be closer to this building, they have no identification of tenants at all. So I can kind of appreciate that the business owner is in a little bit of a bind there. While I was over there looking over the property, I stopped into to the liquor store and I got a chance to talk to the owner of the property. They're going to be represented at some point by the sign company, but I wanted to talk to the owner of the property or the owner of business, and he told me that their existing sign was much closer to the 96 square feet, and that's why they were doing it that way. They have a sign right now which goes all the way across their property and maybe extends a little bit beyond that says wines and liquors in rather large letters. So, and he tells me that sign has been there since 2003, I believe, is when they moved in there. And so it became a non-conforming sign when the law was passed, the zoning law in 2008. So the sign does look like it's in need of some repair. So, I think it'd be a good idea if they could replace it. I went through the 5 criteria that the zoning board is going to look at, and I think probably most of you are familiar with those. And I think the issue here is going to be that this really is a substantial variance. The law allows 24 square feet, and they've got a sign that's 96 square feet. That's a 300% variance there that they're asking for. So, and the other criteria that's going to be an issue here is, can it be achieved by some other means? And, to me, signing is always scalable. So, I mean, if you got a 96 square foot sign, you want it to be 24, you just kind of shrink it down. That's always one option that I'm not sure that they've looked at yet.
John, sorry to interrupt, any idea if the property owner and the other tenants in that plaza have talked to the landlord at all about getting a freestanding monument sign either on Route 4 or 3rd Ave extension to give those businesses more visibility?
Yeah, I didn't get into that with the owner at all. No, so I would have no idea whether.
Okay. Any idea how the current sign compares to the other tenant signs in that plaza currently?
The current sign is well, it's odd because the owner explained to me that it was taken from a previous location and kind of put there. And it actually extends the full length of their property and maybe even a foot or two beyond. But it's up there. A couple of the other properties have very small signs. Panera Bread and Brugger's Bagels, who are among the largest of the tenants in that building, have really kind of modest signs, except for the fact that Brugger's has a good size sign that faces out on the 3rd Avenue extension. St. Peter's has it looks like a rather large sign, and I'm almost, I don't know, I was going to talk to you, Joe, about that, because I think maybe there might be something in state law about health facilities, having to identify themselves or something like that. They have another site within that same plaza, which has a rather large sign on it.
Okay.
But I think there's a number of options here that really should be explored. I don't think that the requested variance could or would be approved, if it ever did get to the zoning board as is. And from a planning perspective, what they're proposing, 96 square feet, I do think it's a bit out of scale with the size of that building. It would take up a good bit of the length of their property, of the liquor store property, and it would almost extend to the top of the roof or the parapet there. I'm not sure if that's going to be an issue or not. So it's a big sign. And I think if you look at the drawings that they've given us, they've shown us, there's a lot to the sign. There's a rather large logo, which in itself is probably just above 24 square feet. And it includes the words within the logo, wines and spirits. And then they have another portion of the sign that says wines and spirits. So they may have to kind of make a choice there as to what's more important to them. Or
The Metro Mattress sign next to it is really big, isn't it? Is that not there anymore?
Which one?
To the right of it, looks like there's a Metro Mattress sign.
No,
At least on Google, it might not be there anymore.
Would be Hallmark has a good sign, and there's
This might be outdated, but to the right of it, there's Metro Mattress, then Effie and Isabel's Giftique, and then Hallmark, and then Brugger's.
Yeah, I think Metro Mattress is down on the other side of Route 4.
I think they're at the other side of Route 4. Yeah.
Is this
Yeah,
actually
I'm
business
just
changing
looking at,
hands?
they have Street View if you go on Google and you can look at the plaza.
Would it help to show their application up on the screen?
John, I would agree with you. I would make the case also that a monument sign is intended to draw people off of the street. And then the sign on the building is, once they're in the parking lot, is to give them direction. So that basically the sign on the building is not intended to draw people off of the street, 600 feet away. So I would say, I would agree with you on what you're saying about the sign being too big and not intended to draw people from the street.
Yeah, I think, it seems like a kind of a severe restriction for somebody who's got a sign that's almost 96 square feet to go down to 24. But really, the issue is actually just how visible is it within the plaza? People driving down the road within the plaza. And
I would almost make the case, if I was them, back to the site owners and say, hey, you should put a monument sign out there for all smaller mid-sized businesses too.
Yeah.
That's another case anyway.
Any thoughts? I mean, if they do have to update the sign, to just put a new sign in there at the same size it is now? I mean, understanding that was a pre-existing non-conforming size. If the sign does need updating, what about just making the updated sign the same size?
I was kind of thinking.
That's what I was thinking, was kind of grandfathered into the size that they have right now. But, I can't see making it even bigger if it's not conforming today. It also sets the precedent for all the other tenants in that, plaza to then want to go get bigger signs, and that would look terrible, if everybody else says, well, then we want a 96-foot sign. I worry about the precedent that would set. But given that they already have a large sign, to grandfather them into the size that they have exists seems like maybe something to consider.
Yeah, good points.
Joe, that wouldn't even require a variance, right? Or shouldn't?
I think actually the sign portion of the code has, with certain exceptions, requires pretty much all signs that were non-conforming within a year to be brought up to the code, the current code. It's pretty heavy-handed. What's that? Sorry.
Who's been enforcing that?
Building and Codes Department.
Is this store changing hands? It's going from wine and spirits to grapes and grains. So it's a new ownership, or?
No, it actually is I guess Grapes and Grains has been around since 93, maybe, I think, if I remember from what he told me, at a different location, first of all. They moved into the plaza. And as he says, they're going to be around. Nothing's changing hands or anything like that. There is this huge sign, not huge, but very big sign that says wines and liquors, which is on the building. And there's also a sign which is not, internally lit, a very small sign that says Grapes and Grains above it. You barely.
Okay. Yeah, I don't recall it. I mean, I've shopped for liquor there many times. I don't ever recall a sign that says Grapes and Grains. I thought it just said wine and liquors.
Yeah, it's pretty small, and like I say, it's not lit internally, so it's easy to miss.
It's a small white sign that says Grapes and Grains, and then under it in red letters says the wines and liquors. See, it was effective, their sign.
It sounds like,
you didn't even know the small one was there.
it sounds like some of those signs may have been put up without a building permit. If it's as big as we say.
Well, no, it's been there since 2003. That's the issue. Our zoning goes back to 2008, so that's why it's not conforming anymore.
That's nice to see it. Yeah, but I just wonder why Panera's and Bruger Bagel, why their sign is so small.
I think they do some design things with their buildings too that don't count as signs. They have sort of a pattern that they put up, like sort of almost like Price Chopper in the Price Chopper Plaza. That sign measures very small, but they have that huge pattern thing behind it, which draws your attention.
Yeah. I know if I were a neighboring business, I wouldn't necessarily want somebody else's sign and logo encroaching on my storefront frontage.
If you look at the sign to the left, though, I mean, that looks like it might be quite a bit larger than the wine and liquor sign, no?
That's the Nails sign, I think, right?
Yeah, I guess it's the square footage. Looks like it's longer.
Yeah, it's Hollywood Nails.
I guess I agree, John, that this needs to be scaled down to some extent, whether it's the grandfathering of the current square footage they have, or even smaller than that. I guess we have, a couple options, or maybe two options, right? One is to make what sounds like a negative recommendation to the ZBA, or someone, whether it's a ZBA or planning and zoning department, to reach out to the applicant and recommend that they go back to the drawing board. Joe, does that sound accurate?
Yeah, I would maybe just make the recommendation to vote on what's before the board right now.
Okay.
Make a recommendation, positive or negative, on the proposal, and let the building and codes department deal with it on their end if they choose to do so.
All right. So I'm just gonna roll through everyone again just to get their opinion. I'll start with John. So John, you're gonna make a negative recommendation on the application for the zoning variance, correct?
Well, if our choices are positive or negative, then yes, I gotta be negative, because there's no way I would recommend this as a positive thing to the board, to the zoning board.
Okay. Ralph?
I'm in agreement with John.
Okay. Kurt?
I agree with John.
Kurt, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
I agree with John.
I was just messing with you. Chris?
I agree too.
All right. Tom Panton?
I'll agree with John. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh.
We got you.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that the planning board makes a negative recommendation from a purely planning perspective on the application for a area variance for a sign at 279 Troy Road, Rensselaer County Plaza. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. I gotta give it to Conway. He wrote it. I think I saw him second. All right,
Roll
Don.
call as follows.
Yes.
Chairman Matson,
Yes.
Mr. Viola,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Ms. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Panton,
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Motion carried by 6-0 vote.
All right. Next, we move on to February 24th, 2021 meeting minutes. Everyone on can vote on these minutes. Any comments or questions? Allison, great work again. Thank you. That'll make
Can I just back up one question, 1 minute? I just have one question in regards to signs. You know, we had a negative recommendation on a Nick's Tutorial sign, the pennant sign, being allowed in the front of the building in Pinecrest Plaza. And I noticed that the zoning board must have approved that sign.
You might think so, but we did not. You know, I was on the board at the time. And what they
It's funny. It's
why-
funny. This was just a couple weeks ago, and I went there last weekend to eat, and I
Yeah.
saw. You're right, Ralph. I saw that sign up there, and I'm like, hey, I got to go check my notes.
What they did was they scaled it, we were gonna turn it down, they scaled it back to where it fit into the existing law. It's much smaller than it used to be.
Yeah, but I don't believe that we allowed any on site or on building signage wasn't allowed in that on the site plan. He had a monument sign allowed on the street, and I don't believe any of those elevations showed any signage, unlike our town center where they actually showed the signage. I don't believe there was any signage noted on any of those elevations as it went through the planning.
I think that's a great point, you know, and this is why I keep bringing it up with the town center project. There seems to be something missing here between signage and zoning and PDDs, you know, because the zoning board has limited sort of authority to tell PDDs what they can do. If, you know, if it's in their site plan, it's, you know, it's in the site plan.
Yeah, but was that something that the building department allowed?
Well, I assume
that would have been part of the building permit.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Did they request a sign permit for that and was allowed a sign permit without review?
they requested a much larger, what they call blade sign, right?
Right, and
That's
the
correct.
zoning board.
And we never took any action on it.
So the zoning board denied it, but the sign ended up anyway.
Yeah, it's much smaller than what they were asking for, but
Yeah, but it just doesn't make sense. How is that allowed? How are they allowed to put that up, Adam?
well, it was my understanding that it was allowed because it was technically legal under the zoning law. And I don't think anybody looked at the PDD site plan, and maybe they should have, but that's how I understood it happened.
Yeah, I mean, you know, just like we're saying, I mean, now you're going to see, you know, 6 other blade signs right along the facade.
Or worse.
Or worse.
Now they did scale back the sign on the backyard that oversaw the parking lot significantly.
Well, I mean, but to me, that's the place where it really doesn't affect the total appearance of the project. I mean, you know, the parking lot side is fine as far as I'm concerned. But number one, that sign looks hideous because it is too small.
Well, it's also about 10 feet away from another sign right there on the monument sign. It says Nick's Trattoria, you know?
I was just curious on how that was allowed because I know that we also gave that a negative recommendation, just like we are now with this grains and I don't know, whatever it is, grains and grapes. And
Ralph, I'd have to double check where, and it's not always clear cut, but where I think when we did the PDD for that project, we did explicitly say in there that anything and I'd have to confirm, but I'm pretty sure we included language that said anything that isn't specifically addressed in the general site plan reverts back to the zoning. So they would just apply for a sign permit, I think it's a B2 zone otherwise. So it's not always clear cut in the PDDs, especially older ones.
Yeah, but is that type of sign even allowed in that zone?
I think they are allowed some on building signage. I think they are, Ralph.
I don't know. It's very disheartening when we go through this review process and we spend a tremendous amount of time trying to make sure that these projects are aesthetically pleasing to the residents of the town of East Greenbush, and then all our efforts go by deaf ear.
Yeah, and I think one of the issues too is, especially with PDDs, is that when you're into phase development, like we're seeing with Town Center, is that they don't have tenants assigned yet, and they don't know what signage is going to be required for each building. So it's pretty difficult to assess signage at the site plan level at this point until they have an idea who's going to be in there.
Yeah, but Joe, I'll just make one other comment. If we made a negative recommendation and John says that the zoning board made a negative recommendation, obviously they got what they wanted. Somebody approved it. So why even have the zoning and planning board if we're going to go ahead and approve things, or the applicant's going to be allowed to just put whatever they want on these buildings?
Yeah, no, I completely understand. But although, like Adam was saying, if it's stated in the PDD language that if it's not specifically addressed in the site plan, it reverts to the PDD, what's allowed there. Then if no signage was put in there, then it would just be what was allowed under that PDD legislation.
Well, they never should have come to us then as an area variance request. If it was in there to begin with, Joe, they wouldn't even have to come in front of us.
Well, unless it exceeded what was allowed under the PDD.
I'm just quickly, I'm looking at, go ahead, sorry.
I mean, they came to us first and I remember having a discussion, I thought, and us, saying no to that. So then they went to PDD and decided, well, I'll just omit it. So we don't have to address it. I'm
No,
confused.
they came to us and with a sign that was larger than what's allowed in the zoning law, right? So then they applied for a variance. We gave a negative recommendation. ZBA they didn't want to approve it either. So then they came up with a sign that met the zoning law criteria, and that's what's there present day.
The criteria.
The request was the placement on that side of the building. That we said.
I just pulled up quickly the criteria here at 332A. Each commercial use is permitted one instance of applied channel lettering or surface mounted wall sign for each frontage on a town road. So there are some, I think the B2 zoning there, or it may have been this other commercial districts. If the PDD were silent on the signage, I think.
So Adam, maybe you can follow up and look into the PDD and see if it's silent on it.
Yeah, yes.
Adam, just scroll down to the projecting sign, because that's actually what they have there. What is it? Yeah. 5 square feet per side. So that's what's allowed.
And I think that's what they did. They got it way down. They were asking for, 25.
That is what they allowed. I just looked at my write-up, and that blade sign is, I believe, 5 square feet. If I could pull my file back up again, on it. And let's see, where is it? How do I get out of this thing?
And I think this applies to, this is each commercial use within business and industrial. So this would apply pretty broadly. the sign code is pretty intricate and complicated. And like I was mentioning before, it's also pretty heavy-handed. And it's really, there's two options. You either conform to it or you go to the ZBA, you know?
I think I should note, that the new proposed town comprehensive plan has a line in it where we recommend that the town board take a look at a new sign ordinance exclusive of zoning and planning.
Well,
I think,
yeah, one of the never mind, we'll address it at a later date. Sorry.
Adam, you'll take a look at the PDD language.
yeah, I will. I'll report back.
Okay. Ralph, are you good?
I'm as good as I can be.
Oh, I know you're not good, but are you good for now? I try to please everyone, but it never works. All
I
right.
didn't know whether Steam was allowed in these Zoom meetings. Can you guys still see Steam?
Yeah, you have to get some. You have to figure out some effects that you can add to your video. Okay, so February 24th meeting minutes. Everyone can vote. Any comments, questions? All right, well, that'll make a motion to approve the February 24th, 2021 meeting minutes. Do I have a second?
Second from Don Panton.
Mr. Panton has it. Allison, you're on mute. I guess you're not even talking. Roll call as follows. Mr. Maston? Yes. Mr. Viola?
Yes.
I'm here now.
Okay.
I was muted by Adam and couldn't unmute. Sorry.
Me and
All
Ralph,
right.
me and Ralph both voted yes.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Ms. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Panton,
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Motion carried by 6-0 vote.
All right. Anyone have anything else?
What are you listening to, Allison? A police scanner back there or what?
She's not telling.
I think she's shaking her head at her husband. All right.
I have criminal minds in the background.
We hope not in the foreground, Allison.
All right. Well, with that, I will make a motion to close the planning board meeting. Right, Joe?
Yes.
I should write myself a note just to make sure I get it right. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. All right. That meeting is closed. Everyone have a good night. Thank you very much.
Good night.
Night all.
Allison, enjoy